Testing, testing. She'll be speaking next, who will be a little bit lower, so you can bring it down. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cryosphere Pavilion at COP27. I'm very excited to announce our next speaker, our second early career scientist for week one. I want to welcome all of our online and in-person participants, and I encourage you to check out our website. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Arthi Ramachandran. She is a PhD candidate at Concordia University in Manitoba, and she's currently working as a policy analyst at the Office of the Chief Scientist in Montreal. Apologies. University of Concordia in Montreal. And her research focuses on changes to Antarctic Ocean microbial communities linked to environmental changes. The floor is yours.
Great. Hi. Thanks, everyone, both here and online, for being here for my talk. So I'm going to be talking a bit about the importance of maintaining bacterial diversity in the Arctic Ocean. Oh, is this? Okay, let's go next. So just to give you guys a bit of background about me. So I'm an Indian Canadian, always interested in kind of marine diversity, always loved the ocean, and never really thought that I would kind of enter the sphere, that I would be able to work in the Arctic. And thankfully, with a lot of great mentorship, I was able to start my PhD at Concordia University, working on microbes and how they change and adapt to environmental conditions, and how that's really important in understanding dynamics, especially in the Arctic Ocean, where we're seeing changes occur much more rapidly than the rest of the world. And so I've been lucky enough to be able to go on many Arctic expeditions. This is one that I took in the Beaufort Sea on the Louis S. Saint Laurent Coast Guard ship. So just to kind of go back a bit and talk a bit about humans and global change. We live in a world where humans are having profound impacts on the global environment. Climate is warming, the population of many species are in decline, and pollution is affecting our ecosystems. Human societies now face new risks in terms of sea level changes, diseases, food security, and climate extremes. And so, we're seeing this increase in atmospheric CO2, methane, N2O. We're seeing increase in atmospheric temperatures, increase in nutrient flow to aquatic ecosystems. And all of these things are creating drastic changes. And we're seeing these global changes affect specifically on our oceans. We're seeing the oceans are currently going through these changes at a level and speed not previously seen. Increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide uptake and decrease in pH means that up to a third of the CO2 from combustion has entered the surface waters of the oceans, making them quite acidified. The surface waters are also freshening due to increased sea ice melt and river runoff and increased precipitation input. We're also seeing increased warmings of the surface ocean, leading to a shallowing of the surface mixed layers, leading to increased stratification. And so all of these things together are contributing to issues with the ocean. We're seeing dramatic changes in the Arctic Ocean. And so, as we know, the atmosphere is warming 2 to 3 folds faster in the Arctic than the global rate. As I said, surface waters are warming due to sea ice retreat and freshening due to increased sea ice meltwater. And we see that's a lot in marine ecosystems. If you look at this graph over here, you can see that the extent of the sea ice has been steadily decreasing from the 80s to now, and is only going to continue to decrease until there is really no sea ice left. We're also seeing a lot of impact to terrestrial ecosystems, permafrost degradation and loss, increase in continuous river discharge. And so when we put together these marine and terrestrial impacts, they're going to combine and have a profound effect on the biogeochemistry and ecology of the Arctic Ocean. And the Arctic plays a vital role in regulating Earth's climate by acting as our cooling system and influences on our currents. So, these changes are causing, big issues with bacterial communities, especially diversity and community composition are changing. And so what does that mean? So in the Arctic Ocean, marine species across various groups have undergone shifts in geographical range and seasonal activities in response to ocean warming, sea ice change, and biogeochemical changes. This has resulted in shifts in species composition, abundance in biomass, production of ecosystems from the equator to the poles. And so these altered interactions between species have caused cascading impacts on ecosystem structures and functioning. And so microbes actually play a very important role in ecosystem services. And that's something I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about because we can't see them. But if you take a look at this figure over here, sorry, you can't hear me if I'm there, but like right over there, you do see microbes are kind of at the bottom of the food web, and they do provide base nutrients that help provide food for all the other higher trophic level organisms. And so if we see changes down here, we're going to slowly see cascading changes that are going to move above, and they'll slowly start affecting the whole ecosystem. And so I'm interested in knowing how microbes are changing and whether that's going to change the ecosystem services that they provide. So microbes comprise 98% of the biomass of the world's oceans, which is equivalent to about 240 billion elephants. And so that's a lot. They supply more than half the world's oxygen and are major processors of the world's greenhouse gases and have the potential to mitigate the effects of climate change. As we begin to understand the important environmental roles that microbes play in marine systems, we're seeing how crucial they are to maintaining ecosystem services. So some of the ecosystem services that they provide here, we'll see in the middle, we have a circle of the different types of microbes, and around it are the different ecosystem services. And so some of them are important for decomposition, others for climate regulation, others for water purification, primary production, carbon sequestration, and nutrient cycling. And so we can see microbes are really important. And so changes in environmental variables can also have drastic effects on ecosystem dynamics. And as we know, and as we've all seen, the Arctic Ocean is rapidly changing. And so as climate change alters the environmental conditions, how will this affect bacterial communities long term? And so we have seen, previous work has identified that we see these changes in bacterial community composition and that they are linked to changes in environmental conditions. And so we have many recent papers that have come out looking at this, and previous works identified distinct bacterial communities, including local groups of bacteria that are quite important in the Arctic Ocean, as well as looking at kind of this cross-colonization between freshwater and marine bacteria. And so as the Arctic freshens, are we seeing movement of freshwater bacteria into the Arctic, and how does that dynamic change for the endemic marine species? We see increased activity of bacteria with warming and with CO2 increase, and shifting patterns of microbial production. And so this may alter the microbial loop, which may alter kind of the base nutrients that we are seeing in the Arctic. And so how will that have larger cascading ecosystem effects is something that we're really interested in understanding. And so I think what's important moving forward is incorporating microbial data into whole ecosystem studies. Scientists and even many international reports, such as the IPCC report, have highlighted the role of Arctic microbes as first responders to climate change and the resulting need for more microbial genomics research. Additionally, international reports have highlighted the lack of microbial time series data showing the effects of climate change at the base of the marine food web. And so moving forward, we need to, kind of pull together, get these microbial data, look at time series, and link them to other studies that have been done in higher trophic level organisms, and we'll have a better understanding of whole ecosystem changes. And I think also another part that's really important is communicating these results to help create more evidence-based policies and creating open dialogues between scientists and policymakers, which is something that is really important here at COP. And so, you know, sometimes it can feel like you're this tiny person kind of pushing to make change, as this picture might illustrate. You have me pushing the icebreaker, and sometimes it's hard if you're just a lone voice kind of yelling into a void. But I think if we're able to bring together science and policy, which is something that I'm really passionate about and is something that I do as a policy analyst for the federal Canadian government, we're able to create meaningful policies backed up by scientific evidence. And so we come together, if we pull the ship, we can pull the ship to safety. We can hopefully create meaningful dialogues, meaningful policies that will help us create a better world for the future. And, you know, we're seeing this now here at COP. We're seeing negotiations. We're seeing scientists becoming more heavily involved in conversations. And I think going forward, that's going to be even more important. And so I'm happy to be here, to be contributing to this, and hopefully we come to a good solution. So yeah, I just think there is more time. And so thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Oh.
Thanks, Arthi. I don't know if this is on. I'm just wondering what was happening in that picture. You were actually pulling the icebreaker or not?
No, so this was just a fun picture that we took where we were pretending to pull the icebreaker. The icebreaker did not move, as one would suspect.
Okay, and a more serious question. What you said, like we need more research to find a solution. But you know, if money wasn't an option and time, like what would your solution be to the issue of microbes in the Arctic?
Yeah, so I think we have, well, one thing we have is we have a lot of really great archival data, and we have a lot of great archival samples that have been stored, especially time series in the Arctic and in a lot of different oceans. And I think if we can take the time to go through all of that, create models, understand how patterns are changing over time, and I think more importantly, link that to other changes like phytoplankton, fish, seals, like all of those things are interconnected. I think if we're able to get that whole ecosystem understanding of change, then we'll be able to actually do some mitigation, because we'll know kind of where the issues are, where the key areas of change need to happen. So I think, yeah, just being able to like pull together and instead of everyone having a separate story, just coming together and having that larger understanding and a larger holistic view.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. So I just have a quick question. What kind of policy specifically can potentially contribute to addressing the problem? And what kind of implementational challenges are there? Are those challenges from like the financial sector, or are they from the policy sector?
That is a really great, really big question that I'm not sure I have the answer to, but I think that we need. So money, of course, is a big issue, and the question is, where does the money come from? Where does the money go? And I think that's something that a lot of governments here are talking about, trying to figure out how to financially help mitigate and adapt to climate change. And I think the policies that need to be put in place need to be moving more towards net zero causes, and trying to move more towards adaptation and mitigation, rather than just pushing and trying to put a Band-Aid on a problem. And so policies that are looking long term moving forward, I think would be really important. And I think hopefully we'll hear more about that as the meeting continues. Great. Well, thank you so much.